Hey, what's up, everyone? Today I've got some stuff that'll keep you on edge. Drop a like and subscribe if you want more. Let's get into it. My cat started hissing at my husband 2 weeks ago. I just found out why he deserves it. 28, female. This story starts with a warning that only a cat could give, and a wife who was too blind, too trusting to see what her beloved pet was desperately trying to tell her. I'm Jessica, 28, and I've been married to Mark for 5 years. We have what I thought was a solid, happy relationship. We have one pet, Nero, a 7-year-old black cat who's never been aggressive to anyone. I'm talking about the kind of cat that doesn't even swat at hands during play. He's been with us since we got together, and he's always been the sweetest thing you could imagine. I've never even seen him hiss before that morning. Mark went on a business trip about 2 weeks ago. Nothing unusual. He travels for work maybe once or twice a year for conferences. But the morning he came home, that's when everything changed in an instant. I was making coffee in the kitchen when he walked through the front door with his luggage. He looked completely normal, sounded completely normal. But the second he reached down to pet Nero, our cat did something I'd never heard before. This deep, primal hiss. Not like a normal annoyed cat hiss. This was feral, angry, genuinely terrified. Nero's fur stood completely on end, his eyes wide and dilated, and he backed away from Mark like my husband was something truly evil. I laughed it off. Maybe Nero was startled. Maybe the stress made him act out. But then Mark tried to approach him again, and Nero repeated that bone-chilling hiss. Worse this time. And that's when something in my stomach dropped. Something was wrong. Because Nero, my sweet Nero, doesn't hiss at people. He doesn't fear anyone. He never has. Not until that morning Mark came home. I didn't know it yet, but that hiss was Nero trying to save my life. This is where things started to go very wrong. So Mark comes home from his business trip, and something feels immediately wrong. That first hiss wasn't the end of anything. It was just the beginning. The next 2 weeks are where things get dark. That first week, Nero didn't just hiss anymore. He'd circle Mark whenever he came home, ears flat, tail puffed up like a bottle brush. Mark would try to pet him, and the cat would yowl, this horrible sound like Mark was actively trying to hurt him. I'd apologize to Mark, making jokes about Nero being weird, that maybe some dog scent from his hotel had freaked him out. Mark would laugh it off, but I noticed he stopped trying to touch the cat after day 2. He just gave up. By the second week, things escalated. Nero started following me everywhere. When Mark went into another room, the cat would position himself between us, blocking doorways like a security guard. When Mark came to bed at night, Nero would jump in and press himself against me, a furry barrier between me and my husband. Our sweet cat had become some kind of intense guardian, and Mark changed. The first few days he was quiet, understandable after traveling. By day 5 or 6, he stopped talking much at all. He'd come home, barely acknowledge me, and head straight to his office with the door locked. At dinner, he was distant, constantly checking his phone, never really present. I asked if something was wrong at work, and he'd snap at me before catching himself and apologizing. But the apologies felt empty. One night, I found him looking at something on his computer. When I knocked and asked about coffee, he practically jumped and slammed the laptop shut. Said he was working. His hands were shaking. He started locking his office door, something he'd never done in 5 years. His phone stayed face down. He'd take it to the bathroom. I found a new credit card statement I didn't know about. When I asked, he said it was work issued for travel expenses, said it with an edge that made me just let it go. 2 weeks in, things didn't normalize. They got worse. Nero never backed down. Mark never softened. And I was stuck choosing not to see the signs. At the time, I told myself I was overthinking it. Mark was just stressed. Nero was just having a weird phase. That's what I kept saying. But the truth was, signs were everywhere. I just wasn't ready to see them for what they actually were. Nero knew. The cat understood something fundamental about the man I'd married, something I was still too blind to notice. And within a few days, I was going to understand exactly why he was so desperate to protect me. Things came into focus over the next week. The late nights continued, but now there was something else. Mark's office door, usually open, stayed locked. The key was always on him. He kept it on a lanyard around his wrist, like he was guarding something. I didn't think much about it at first. Everyone has their own space. But then I noticed the purchases. Credit card statements arriving for orders I didn't recognize. Bottles, measuring equipment, things with no labels. He'd bring them home, hurry them straight into that locked office, and close the door again. The whole time Nero would follow me from room to room, pressing against my legs, his hackles raised, making sure I wasn't alone with Mark in any closed space. I started following Mark on his late-night errands. The hardware store one evening, he bought a small padlock, heavy duty. A chemical supplier's website was open on our shared computer before he cleared the history. I sat there, staring at the empty browser, trying to feel something other than stupid. Nero would hiss whenever Mark came near me now. He positioned himself between us in the same room. Once, Mark tried to touch my shoulder, and Nero, who had never raised a claw to anyone in 7 years, swiped at him. Mark went pale and left the room. I remember standing there, my cat's tail puffed to twice its size, both of us breathing hard. By the 3rd week, I was noticing other things. Headaches, a floating sensation in the afternoons. I'd lose track of conversations mid-sentence. Mark would smile when I asked him to repeat himself and say things like, "You're stressed," or "Maybe you need more sleep." I kept a journal tucked under the mattress. Nights when I felt dizzy, mornings when I couldn't remember if I'd already fed Nero. The comments came fast. "Please, please, please document everything. Those instances where you felt weird, sick, confused, write them down with dates. Tell the police every detail. This is serious. I can't stop shaking after reading this. Your husband was trying to destroy you. Thank God for that cat." Each comment was like a cold hand on the back of my neck. Things I'd dismissed, things Mark had told me I was imagining. Suddenly they weren't in my head anymore. They were real. And that's when the actual fear started setting in. A few days later, OP came back with an update post. I drank from that carafe for 3 days before I realized what was in it. I still don't know how to start this. My hands won't stop shaking. Mark kept a carafe of water on his desk. He told me it was purified, that I could drink from it any time. For 3 days, I did. It was my go-to when I was thirsty at night working late. Then Tuesday morning, I knocked it over, cleaning his office. While wiping the floor, I noticed something. The smell. Chemical. Bitter. Wrong. It hit me like a shock. My great-aunt was poisoned when I was 7. She survived, but spent months in the hospital. I remember that smell. I remember my grandmother saying it smelled like that particular poison. I picked up the carafe. Empty now, but that smell was unmistakable. My whole body went cold. I looked in his desk drawer, an unmarked bottle, just sitting there. I don't remember calling the police. I don't remember much except my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. I told them what I found. I told them I'd been drinking from that carafe. They said it was antifreeze. He was poisoning me, slowly. Nero knew. My cat knew what my husband was doing to me, and he couldn't let me ignore it. The responses came fast and brutal. Oh my God, the cat knew? Animals sense intent in ways we can't explain. This is one of the most horrifying posts I've ever read on here. The fact that your pet was your only warning sign is chilling. I've read a lot of abuse disclosures, and this is the first time I've seen a pet's behavior be the literal alarm bell. Most people don't figure it out until they're in the hospital, or their partner escalates to something obvious. She got out because a cat wouldn't let her ignore the danger. That's not a coincidence. The cat hissing was a blessing. I'm so glad you're out and safe. That's calculated, premeditated abuse. Stay strong. Nero didn't sense something wrong. That cat saved her life. Everything comes to a head on the night OP finally understands. I drank from that carafe for 3 days before I realized what was in it. I'm writing this from my mother's place with shaking hands. When I found that bottle in Mark's desk, I knew something was catastrophically wrong. The smell. God, the smell took me back to when I was 8 years old. My great-aunt went to trial for poisoning her husband. Arsenic. Strychnine. I never forgot that chemical stench. And it was in our kitchen, in a carafe on our counter. He'd been poisoning me. 3 days I drank from it before the reality crashed down. I grabbed Nero, threw whatever clothes I could grab into a bag, and called 911 from the car. I didn't even tell Mark I was leaving. I just drove. Within an hour, police were at the house with forensics. They found bottles hidden in his office. They found journals. They found research articles on slow poisons that wouldn't show up on standard screens. Mark was arrested that night, and he's still in custody. The case is ongoing, and my lawyer says I can't discuss details anymore, which is why I'm deleting this account. I needed to say this once, though. My cat knew. 7 years of never hissing at a soul, and then one day, he smelled the poison on my husband and couldn't stop trying to protect me. Nero saved my life. The comment section knew what mattered. Cats can smell poison and sense malice. Nero was literally your guardian angel. I'm so sorry this happened to you. That's what gets overlooked in stories like this. We're told to trust our instincts, but our animals, they sense reality before we ever can. Mark came home dangerous, and Nero's body knew it the moment he walked through the door. While OP was trying to rationalize his mood changes, while she was giving him the benefit of the doubt, her cat was smelling the poison he planned to use on her. He was warning her over and over. She listened, and she lived. Nero was the hero in this story. And on to the next one. I'm 16F, and a Discord therapist was grooming me into an off-grid meetup. My friend saved my life. This comes from X, posted in January. It's a cautionary story about a teenage girl struggling with depression who finds what feels like a safe community online and doesn't realize someone is methodically building her isolation from everyone who could protect her. I'm 16, female, and I've been dealing with depression for a couple years. 3 months ago, I joined a Discord server called Quiet Haven. It's for teens struggling with mental health. There's an admin there named Aurora who started messaging me in DMs. She'd stay up late with me when I couldn't sleep, really listen, tell me things like, "I get you in a way your parents never will." She made me feel genuinely understood for the first time. Then she started saying my parents didn't understand mental health, that they were actually holding me back from healing, that their need for control was toxic. She'd point out how my dad's concern was just manipulation and my mom's love was suffocating. The more we talked, the more I believed her. She became the person I confided in instead of my family or friends. Last week, she sent me a gas station address and a time, Saturday at 2 a.m. She said she was organizing a secret healing retreat at an off-grid cabin for girls like me. She said if I told my parents or anyone, it would sabotage my recovery and prove they had poisoned me against her. I was about to message back yes when my best friend came over. I showed her all the DMs. She scrolled back through them. That's when she saw the date and realized pickup is 48 hours away. She completely panicked, and her panic was justified, because that friend was about to become the only person who could stop what was coming. Let me get into what actually happened next. The thing about manipulation is it doesn't feel like manipulation when it's happening. It feels like someone finally getting you, like they see the real you that everyone else misses. The DM started casual. Aurora asked about my day, my therapy, what my parents said. Then she shifted focus. She'd message late at night when I spiraled. Always there, instantly. No waiting for appointments, just someone who truly understood. She pointed out patterns. My mom criticized my weight constantly. My dad dismissed my mental health struggles. She wasn't wrong about those things, but how she framed them changed everything. Like my parents were actively sabotaging my recovery. She'd send long voice messages about generational trauma and family systems that weaponize vulnerability. Every conversation became evidence of their toxicity. Mom asks where I'm going, controlling. Dad makes a joke, dismissive. Aurora kept saying healing required distance from toxic influences. She mentioned girls she'd helped who broke free and finally lived. The breakthrough happened when they stopped hiding and embraced themselves. Then she mentioned a retreat, not official, not sketchy, a healing journey for girls who got it, at a cabin upstate. No parents, no judgment, no digital traces. She said isolation was therapeutic. Being away from noise and control was how we'd hear our true voices. The meeting point was a gas station 3 hours away. If my parents found out, they'd sabotage everything because my independence threatened their control. That's when she sent the address. And it happened over the course of just 1 week. She went from supportive admin to something else entirely. She reframed my entire world through a single lens, my parents as enemies, herself as savior, and this secret retreat as my breakthrough moment. And that's the thing. She didn't force me into anything. She didn't threaten me. She used every conversation to reinforce one message: that I was special, that she alone understood me, and that my independence depended on isolation from everyone I'd ever trusted. That's when OP's best friend asked to see the screenshots. That's when the manipulation lost power. That's when her best friend asked to see the screenshots. I showed her a few of the messages and I watched her face change. She just kept asking, wait, when was this? And did she say that? Until I'd sent her like 50 screenshots over 30 minutes. Then she got quiet for a long time. She told me she needed to show me something. She spent like 2 hours that night looking up stuff about online predators and grooming tactics, and sent me these articles about how predators isolate victims from their families first, about how they position themselves as the only person who truly understands you, about how they create fake emergencies to rush you into meeting them. She kept saying, "This is it. This is exactly what's happening to you." She asked me if Aurora had ever given me a specific reason for the meetup. Not vague healing stuff, but an actual reason. And when I said no, just talk about the cabin and getting away from people who don't understand me, my friend got angry in a way I'd never seen before. She said we had to tell my parents immediately. She said this was serious. She said people like Aurora didn't send girls to cabins for tea. And I knew she was right. I knew it in my stomach. But I was terrified. The friend didn't wait. The way she reframed your parents as the enemy is textbook isolation. Predators position themselves as the only person who truly understands you. So glad your friend caught this. PSA: if an online mentor is DMing you privately and telling you not to tell your parents, that's your stop sign. Full stop. There's no legitimate reason to hide a relationship from your guardians. Did Aurora ever actually tell you what would happen at the meetup? Like, did she ever hint at what the endgame was? Or was it all vague healing and community the entire time? She never got specific about it, never promised money or opportunities or anything tangible. Just healing, real support, being away from people who don't understand you. That's the scariest part, honestly. I still don't know what would have actually happened to me if I'd gotten in that car. Whether it was trafficking, confinement, something worse. We never got far enough to find out. That's when everything moved fast. Within hours, everything escalated. I found another victim in our city, and the FBI just connected 3 more cases to the same network. My friend found an archived Reddit post from 3 years ago, different state entirely. Someone described being picked up from a gas station by 3 women. Same grooming, same isolation tactics, same promises of healing. Except they didn't drop her off at a cabin. Drove her to an apartment, took her phone, told her that her parents had legally abandoned her. She was missing for weeks. She recognized Aurora's voice in those old DMs. Different name used, but identical approach. We told our parents. Police were at our house in under an hour. Thought I was done. I wasn't. By dinner time, FBI agents were in our living room. One agent got a call mid-interview. Their expression changed. 3 more victims, 3 different states. 3 separate FBI field offices had been working cases with the same pattern. The archived thread connected them all. The cabin was never real. Aurora and 2 other women had been running this operation for years. One of the original victims, the girl from that apartment, she's still missing. Still. Reactions to what OP found were immediate. Wait, the original Reddit warning got deleted? That seems super convenient for whoever was running the operation. Probably deleted by the original poster after getting contacted or threatened. Predators are good at managing their online footprint. But archive sites preserve the screenshots before deletion, which is how OP's friend found them. Thankfully, people in these communities know to screenshot everything. The 3 a.m. messages, the endless personal questions, telling you not to tell your parents. Every single move is out of the Predator manual. This is calculated entrapment. I was in a cult for 2 years. This is identical to how they operated. Love bombing, creating urgency, reframing family as enemies, making you feel chosen. The whole playbook is the same. This thread blew up fast. OP was safe, but someone out there wasn't. So here's what the investigation uncovered once authorities really started digging. I found another victim in our city, and the FBI just connected 3 more cases to the same network. I'm not going to lie. The day I found Sarah was when I understood how much danger I was actually in. She was in my city, same age range, and her story was identical to mine. The late-night voice calls with Aurora, the feeling of being uniquely understood, the secret healing journey that was actually a setup. Once I showed the FBI her screenshots, everything accelerated. They've now traced Quiet Haven to 47 teen members across 4 states, all matching the same targeting profile. The admin used rotating VPNs and cryptocurrency to stay hidden. They confirmed that Aurora and her network operated the apartment where they held the first victim. The girl from that archived Reddit post is still missing. Authorities told us the Predator is sophisticated enough that the case might go nowhere, that she could stay hidden indefinitely. But knowing she's been found and named changed everything for me. She's no longer faceless. She's Aurora, and they're looking for her. Comments on this hit harder than usual. Thank you for documenting this so clearly. Teens need to see how this actually unfolds because it's never what they expect. It's not a stranger. It's someone posing as your therapist and best friend. Every parent needs to see this and show it to their kids. This isn't a stranger in a van. It's someone who becomes their closest friend over weeks and uses that trust as the trap. Predators don't send threats. They don't show up in white vans. They position themselves as the only person in the world who understands you. They convince you that your parents are the enemy, that therapists can't help, that only they have the answer. By the time you realize something's wrong, isolation is already complete. The scary thing is how long this could have gone undetected. An entire network hidden behind cryptography and rotating identities, fed by a steady stream of vulnerable teens. That's the actual threat. And on to the next one. I answered what I thought was Amazon tech support during setup and gave a hacker complete access to my smart home for 3 months. This story comes from the Paranoia board, posted by a user called Pale Frequency. And it starts the way a lot of modern horror does, with a phone call, a simple moment of trust, and the instant you realize you've handed the keys to your house to a complete stranger. Something that seemed routine, something that shouldn't have happened, something that cost him months of his life to understand. I'm 28 and I bought my first smart home setup back in January. Full ecosystem, cameras, motion sensors, smart lock, the works. I was excited about it, genuinely thought I was being smart and securing my place. I'm in the middle of setup when my phone rings. It's someone claiming to be from Amazon tech support. They knew my address, they knew my router model, they knew details about my account. Looking back, insane that I didn't question it. But in the moment, I was genuinely impressed they could verify who I was. They said they needed to remotely verify my system to make sure everything was secure. Compatibility check, they called it. So I gave them access. I watched my desktop get taken over, watched them poke around. Within a week, I noticed something off. My motion sensors were triggering at 3 in the morning. I live alone, empty rooms. All night long, these sensors were going crazy. Then nothing. Then I looked at my camera footage and realized someone had been systematically adjusting the angles. Night after night, all pointed at my bedroom window now. Adjusted carefully, deliberately. Not a malfunction, not a glitch. Someone was positioning them. Someone was watching. The worst part? He still had no idea who was inside his systems or what else they could access beyond the cameras. It wouldn't be the last discovery, not by a long shot. Within weeks of that call, something started going wrong with the smart home system. At first, I told myself it was just cheap hardware, faulty equipment, bad luck with the new purchase. My bedroom camera would randomly disconnect, go offline for hours at a time. When it came back online, something felt off. The living room camera's angle had shifted, like someone had physically rotated it toward the couch where I'd sit at night. I thought maybe the mount had come loose. Then the recording started disappearing. Entire chunks of video footage, just gone from the cloud storage. I'd go to pull up a recording and the system would say, nothing was saved for that time window. At first I figured it was a storage limit, maybe a subscription issue. But something bothered me. The coincidences kept piling up. So I went back and pulled months of old footage, scrolling through archives from January, February, March. That's when I saw it, the timeline. Every single camera that went offline, every single recording that vanished, it all started the same week as that unsolicited tech support call. I traced through the pattern. One camera goes down, comes back online but angled completely different. Then footage from that window just disappears. Same thing happens to the next camera, and the next. Every camera on my network. I'm sitting at my laptop at 2 a.m., hands shaking, and it clicks. This isn't random hardware failure. This isn't a glitch. This is deliberate. Someone has been inside my system the entire time, months of it, watching, adjusting angles, erasing their tracks. I don't have proof. I don't know how to prove it, but I know. Looking back now, I can't believe it took me so long to piece it together. But once you started looking at the timeline, once you saw the pattern, there was no denying it. The pattern was undeniable, and I was sitting alone with this terrible knowledge, unable to convince anyone, unable to prove what I somehow knew was true. So I start digging. If this was a real breach, there has to be evidence in my Amazon account. I logged into my account for the first time in weeks, and immediately saw something wrong. A secondary account had been created on January 15th, the exact same day as that tech support call. It wasn't under my name or email, but it was linked to my payment method. This account had already made 12 purchases totaling around $800. Every single one was shipped to anonymous drop addresses in different cities. Electronics, gift cards, small high-value items that could be resold. The purchases stopped abruptly in mid-April, 3 months after they started. I pulled my router access logs next, and that's when the scope of this really hit me. This wasn't just about the cameras. The entire network was compromised. I could see in the logs where someone had established remote access to every connected device. My laptop, my phone, the Echo Hub, the security system, everything. The timeline was perfect. The breach started within hours of that call, and for 3 months, someone I'd never met had full control of my smart home. They knew my routines. They knew when I was home, when I wasn't, and they'd been systematically recording everything. The comments absolutely blew up. Did the police confirm what he actually recorded through your microphones? Like, do you know if he was capturing audio or just the camera feeds? The detective said his network access gave him potential audio capability through the Echo Hub and any microphone-enabled devices, but they're still analyzing his device logs to confirm what was actually captured. The potential part is what keeps me up at night. He could have been recording conversations I had no idea about, waiting on the full forensic report. This is absolutely chilling. Did police manage to retrieve any of the footage, or is it still floating around out there? I can't imagine living with that uncertainty. The secondary account purchase pattern is classic fraud probe methodology. Small charges to test if the card declines. Absolutely textbook social engineering into infrastructure exploitation. The police came back with answers. They traced the call to a spoofed VoIP service. But the real shock came when investigators started pulling the access logs. They found my footage being sold on 3 dark web forums. Here's what the detective told me. The detective called me on a Friday afternoon, and I could tell from his voice this wasn't going to be good news. Turns out the hacker had been inside my network for the full 3 months. Not just passively, he was recording, methodically. The access logs showed him testing camera angles at different times of day, learning when I was home and when I wasn't, adjusting the kitchen camera to get a better view into the bedroom. He spent weeks mapping my entire network, documenting everything. Then he sold it, all of it. My footage was on 3 different dark web marketplaces. Account credentials, camera feeds, everything. The detective had screenshots. I had to sit down. The comment section absolutely lost it. People were reacting to the scale of it. 3 months of systematic surveillance, then monetized on the dark web. The social engineering aspect is brilliant in the worst way. He knew exactly what to say to make you feel like you were being responsible. I would have done the same thing. I'm genuinely disturbed by the part about him trying to adjust the camera angle to see into your bedroom. That crosses from someone in your network to predator actively trying to surveil you. Did Amazon refund the fraudulent charges right away, or did they fight you on proving unauthorized account activity? Amazon actually got it handled pretty quickly once I showed them the police report. The charges were like $4,000 plus in different things shipped to a drop address. Without the documentation from the detective, yeah, I think they would have fought me. OP filed the FBI IC3 complaint, wiped everything, and moved in with his girlfriend for a month. Then the detective called back with the forensics report. They found my footage being sold on 3 dark web forums. Here's what the detective told me. I didn't want to write this, but you need to know. My footage is on 3 separate dark web marketplaces. The hacker had packaged it all cleanly, organized by room and date. Bedroom footage goes for $50 a clip. Full 12-hour day feeds for $200. They trace some buyers, but extradition is basically impossible. Spoofed VoIP through 5 countries, cryptocurrency payments, completely anonymous. The detective was straight with me. No prosecution is happening. But Amazon is taking this seriously now. They launched a full investigation into spoofed tech support calls. They're still trying to figure out how many other people are in this exact situation without even knowing it. The comment section had a visceral reaction to this one. Amazon needs to issue a public safety alert about this. If he was hitting 5 to 10 homes a month, there are probably hundreds of people in this situation right now, and they don't even know it. Please tell me you're staying on law enforcement and Amazon about this. Cases like this often get shuffled to the bottom of a priority list. Document everything. What breaks something in you about a case like this is the violation. For 3 months, someone was living inside his house digitally, learning his routines, watching his private moments. The horror isn't just not knowing where that footage went or who has copies. It's the permanent erosion. He'll never trust a smart device the same way. Neither will thousands of other people, most of them without even knowing they're compromised right now. Your home used to be sacred, the one place that was entirely yours. That illusion is gone, and that's the part that lingers. On to the next one. My hairstylist has been secretly collecting my hair samples and my Instagram photos, 23 female. This next story takes place somewhere that's supposed to be safe, a space defined by care and transformation. But what happens when someone weaponizes the vulnerability that comes with being in someone's hands? I'm 23, and I've been going to the same stylist, Emma, for about 6 months. She's incredibly talented. People ask where I get my hair done because it looks so good. She has this warm, friendly personality that makes you feel like you're hanging out with a friend instead of sitting in a salon chair. We'd chat during appointments, and over 6 months, you open up. She knows about my job, my family stuff, my relationship drama, things I wouldn't tell most people. I trusted her completely. I never questioned it because that's just how salon relationships work. You're in someone's chair for hours and vulnerable, and you tell people things. Last week, I was waiting for my color to process and reached for a hair elastic in her drawer. I knocked over a plastic container. It had my full name written on the label. Inside were hair samples, dozens of them, organized by date with little labels showing when each was collected. And next to the container were printed screenshots of my Instagram posts. Not just a few, dozens and dozens. Each one had handwritten notes in the margins. Notes about what I was wearing, where I'd been tagged, details from my captions and comments. My photos had marks circling people's faces. It was meticulously organized, clinical, like a documented file on my entire life. And that's where this story begins, with a discovery that changes everything about how you see a person you thought you trusted. The hair samples were just the beginning. As OP pulled open the plastic container further, her stomach dropped. There was more underneath. Much more. Photographs. Dozens of them. All printed. All from her Instagram account. But these weren't casual printouts retrieved on a whim. They were zoomed in on specific details. My face circled in red pen. My outfit highlighted. My background marked with arrows and small notations. Every margin was covered in precise, methodical handwriting. Clinical observations written in a neat, detached script. Tuesday Starbucks, 8:47 a.m. Corner table by window. Coffee shop location, Meridian and 4th intersection. Regular visits Tuesday and Thursday. Pattern consistent. Each post was dated with the exact published timestamp. Cream cardigan visible in posts 310, 324, 415. Regularly worn item. She had tracked my clothing across months. Detailed notes about people who appeared in my photos, complete with dates and frequency counts. Friend in striped shirt, tagged post 315, appears again 42, 48, 415, 51. Frequency, weekly, Thursday. My friends identified and cataloged. Personal information circled and underlined. Graduate student, marketing concentration, lives alone, birthday, August. Mentioned being single in caption 214. She had documented my education, my career field, my living situation, details I had only mentioned in Instagram captions that followers might see. Every screenshot organized chronologically by publication date, labeled with exact URLs and timestamps. Not scattered, not chaotic. Clinical, methodical. A complete timeline of my digital footprint examined under a microscope and filed away in a system. As I flipped through them, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the papers, it clicked. This wasn't admiration. This wasn't casual curiosity. This was collection. Profile building. She had been studying me like a researcher studies a subject. Every Instagram post I had ever made, thinking I was in control, had been systematically dissected, annotated, and filed into her personal archive. I was a specimen. And that's when the full realization hit OP. Someone she had trusted completely had been running a systematic, calculated operation, documenting her, tracking her movements, building an intimate profile of her life. This wasn't casual, this wasn't accidental, this was predatory, and it had been happening for months.
So OP didn't just put the container down and walk away.
She froze. And then the panic set in. I'm not even sure how I left that salon. I just closed the drawer and told her I had to go. My hands were shaking the entire drive home. Once I got inside, I sat on my couch for 20 minutes staring at the wall. That's when it hit me. She has my hair, my full name, screenshots of my Instagram, and she's been writing about me like I'm a specimen to study. I pulled up my old salon appointment emails and started texting every person I could remember from my 6 months going there. I kept it vague at first, just asking if anyone had noticed anything off about the stylist. The first response came back within 15 minutes. Another client had noticed the stylist taking photos of her without asking. A few others mentioned odd questions about their routines, relationships, where they lived. One woman said she'd seen printed photos of herself in a folder labeled with her initials. That's when I stopped shaking and started feeling sick. I called non-emergency and explained what I'd found. They told me to come in with the container. I grabbed it again, this time with gloves, and went straight to the station. The comment section validated every second of that panic. Do not go back to that salon. File a police report today. This is textbook stalker behavior and will escalate. Change your social media privacy settings immediately. I'm so sorry you're going through this. Please prioritize your safety. Restraining order, privacy settings, maybe therapy. You did nothing wrong by trusting your stylist, but protect yourself now. This is absolutely horrifying. The organization and documentation is what gets me. She wasn't just obsessed, she was hunting. Please tell me the police are involved. 3 days later, OP came back with an update. I pressed charges and they found 47 other women's hair samples. I contacted the police that same day. By Thursday, they had a warrant for her apartment. What they found changed everything. 4 other women came forward after I contacted them. Each one had an identical container with her name on it. Hair samples organized by date. Screenshots of their Instagram posts with handwritten notes about their routines, their locations, their habits. Everything tracked. The police counted 47 containers total. 47 women, over almost 4 years. Each one meticulously documented. Not just the hair, detailed notes about where they lived, where they worked, who they spent time with. Information that could only come from social media and physical surveillance combined. The security footage was the worst part. Footage from businesses near her apartment shows her following clients out of the salon, waiting outside their apartments, showing up at their gyms and coffee shops on the exact days and times they'd posted about being there. It wasn't random. It was planned. It was predatory. The reactions online were instant. People understood what they were looking at. Hair. She was collecting trophies. DNA trophies. This woman is dangerous and needs to be stopped immediately. You have to warn the other clients. I'm so disturbed right now. How many times did she have physical contact with you while secretly treating you like some kind of research subject? The violation here is insane. This is the part that really gets under my skin. She used her professional role to normalize her access to your body while simultaneously violating your privacy in the worst way. That's not just stalking, that's predatory. The fact that she was so methodical makes it worse. That scale was what people kept coming back to. 47 women. 4 years of planning. OP reported her the same day she found the container. The police didn't wait. I pressed charges and they found 47 other women's hair samples. I went to the police that afternoon. By evening, they had a warrant. What they found made me sick. 47 women. 47 labeled containers, each with a name, dates organized by visit, and pages of notes. She documented our routines, our schedules, where we lived and worked. There were photographs taken from outside our homes, surveillance footage from nearby businesses. It wasn't casual or random, it was methodical. She had mapped out each of our lives with precision. She knew when we were alone. She knew our vulnerabilities because we told her. In the salon chair, we tell our stylist things we don't tell anyone else. While I was talking about my anxiety, my insecurities, she was taking notes, building a profile on all of us. The police found security footage of her following clients to their homes and workplaces. She was arrested and charged with stalking and harassment across multiple counts. The restraining order was immediate. I deleted my Instagram that night. Everything gone. Now other women are reaching out. We're trying to process that someone we trusted with access to our bodies used that access to surveil us. The comments on that update post hit different. The note-taking on your Instagram post is the scariest part. She was building a psychological profile. This isn't a quirky salon lady. This is a predator with a system. What haunts you about cases like this is the violation of intimate spaces. The salon is supposed to be safe. The stylist chair is where you're vulnerable, where you trust someone with access to your body, your routines, your secrets. This stylist didn't just break that trust, she weaponized it. She used the intimacy of that space to conduct systematic surveillance on nearly 50 women. The calculated nature is what sticks with you. The labeling, the dating, the note-taking, the mapping of lives. That's not someone with boundary issues. That's predatory behavior, methodical and planned, disguised as familiarity. That is the last story for today.